I can get what I want. I can use a little bit of anger, I can use a little bit of a temper tantrum, I can do whatever, and I'll get, but it starts in the thought life. But the sufferings of a 5-year-old are very minor compared to the negative consequences that are experienced by an adult who fails to maintain their thought life properly. So what I want to talk about today is the battle, but it is the battle that is in the thoughts, the battle that takes place in the mind. So knowing this, let's stop for a moment and look at the lives of people that we know. Now, we're not trying to judge anybody, so don't get into judging. What we're just doing here right now is just take a life, use as a real-life example some of the people you know. You cannot miss the wrecked lives. You cannot miss the lives that have been hurt by a person's failure to take control of what they allowed themselves to think about. You don't have to look very far, and you are going to see people who have not controlled their thought life, and you will see the damage that it has done in their lives. See, we can see lives that have been destroyed by hatred. Hatred of civil authority. Hatred of their employers, hatred of fellow employees or friends. You see lives that are destroyed by hatred very quickly. In fact, for some people, hatred will dominate their relationship with their parents, with their spouse, and even their own children. They are so angry and so bitter that they just can't have relationships. What's happened? Their thought life has not been controlled, and it has ended up destroying all sorts of things. It's very easy to see how hatred being allowed in our life is a destructive thing. Nothing good comes from it. It destroys the relationships, and it will eventually separate you from everybody else. You know, I've met more and more people that keep talking about they have no friends, and when you talk to them for a very short while, you hear them talk more and more about how everybody's done me wrong song. Everybody's done me wrong. Doesn't matter who I've gone to, doesn't matter what I've done, they've always done me wrong. And you end up understanding very quickly that there's something in their own heart, there is something in their own thoughts that keeps looking for what everybody else is going to do wrong, and they'll find it. Because what you're looking for is what you find. But they've allowed their thought life to run in that direction, and now they've ended up destroying everything about them, everything close to them, by allowing this anger, this bitterness, this hatred to come in and to take over and to color all of their different relationships. And all of a sudden they can't understand why this has happened, why they're so lonely, why they're always having to make new friends. They can't understand why they got to move and move and move and move and move to try and find somebody. Because something has gone wrong in the thought life. It's quiet in here today. Everybody's listening so good, right? Everybody's hearing so well. Now realize that this hatred starts very quietly in the mind, and it is incubated over time. This hatred doesn't just wake up one day and it's like, boom, we're there, now we're mad. No, it starts. It builds up. It works in the mind, and it keeps building, and it keeps building, and the thoughts keep getting added. As our minds continue to rehearse what has been said or what has been done to hurt us, we will allow the offense to grow to such proportions that it affects our attitudes toward other individuals. And it doesn't matter who it is. All of a sudden the offense starts building. Well, they did this wrong. And they'll start playing that over in their mind, and they'll start adding to that in their mind. And it comes to the place until one day when it does explode, the relationship is broken. You go, what can we do? You'll see this in churches where people will have these ideas in their mind. Well, pastor doesn't really. And they won't speak it the first while because it sounds so silly when they say it out loud. But then they start rehearsing it. And it starts playing and running in little circles like that little hamster on a wheel. And it starts running and saying, oh yeah, pastor doesn't like me, pastor is this, pastor is that, pastor's looking. And they start building distrust, and they start building, and then also the things come and the separation relationship is over. It comes in families. My parents didn't like me as well as they liked my brother. And all of a sudden that starts playing and running. And not the first time that anything happens. The first time it happens, it's like, oh yeah, right, well, how could they not like me? But then the thing starts running around and starts niggling and starts playing. And before you know it, that thought life, that battle has taken place. And it's come to the point where also you're going to have a child that just totally walks away, just totally destroyed. Because guess what? They don't like me. They don't want me. And you'll see this hatred, this anger. You'll see this building until the relationship is destroyed and people end up getting hurt through it. It never happens overnight. It takes time. But the offense will grow to such a proportion that it will begin to affect your attitude towards that other person. Now, many times before you know it, before you yourself might even realize, your attitude towards that person will have changed. And in your own heart, when you stop to think about it, you know, I don't feel the same way about them I used to. What's happened here? Your own attitude has started changing. And you don't even know it yet. But all of a sudden, well, I don't know if I could really trust that person. And you start drawing away. You start pulling away. You start pushing back. You start allowing that thought to grow. You start allowing that thought to build. You start allowing that thought to be incubated until it becomes bigger, until it becomes stronger, until it starts taking over. Before long, that hatred will move into the realm of influencing your actions, your words. The increasingly noticeable actions and words will slowly but steadily deteriorate the relationship. It is the sad end of failing to properly maintain a thought life. How do we see this play out? We see this every day around us with relationships that are destroyed. Because a thought was allowed to enter in. And then it ran and ran and ran and ran. It built and built and built and built until it brought forth its evil child. So when we look at people's lives, we will see marriages that have been wrecked by jealousy and by anger. The joy, the companionship that should be in the marriage has eroded over time. They've ended up allowing different thoughts. Husbands and wives have chosen not to properly maintain their thought life. Now, whether we like it or not, the deterioration of the marriage will start with our failure to scrutinize the thoughts that we allow ourselves to embrace. We don't keep watching the thought that is coming in, and the thoughts attack our minds, and we open ourselves up to all sorts of different things, and we allow these thoughts to start playing in our mind. And if we don't properly maintain our thought life, these things will start taking over. I know a number of years ago, and people will laugh at it now, but a number of years ago it was known as truth, and it's still truth. It was said, you know, one of the things that you spend most of your time watching will open you up very quickly to different thoughts. I don't know how many people ended up losing their marriage because they were watching soap operas. And all of a sudden the ideas started playing in. Well, that's what happens. That's what the real world is about. That's what's going on. And these thoughts would start playing in their minds, and they would say, well, that's what my husband, that's what my wife is, that's what's happening with my best friend. That's what. And those thoughts would start moving in, and those thoughts would start running. I believe TV has been more destructive than any good that has ever done in most people's homes. And I'm not against TV. Don't think I'm preaching against TV here. I'm not. I'm preaching against the guy that leaves it plugged in when it should be unplugged. And we start allowing these thoughts to play. We start allowing these thoughts to build. And before you know it, they have incubated. They become so big that we don't know what to do with it anymore. Every marriage will begin to deteriorate with the failure to scrutinize the thoughts that we allow ourselves to entertain. You know, I worked for years. I've worked in the business with a hair shop, which is mostly a female clientele. And I've heard for years, I used to hear how women would sit there and talk about their husbands to each other. And I think, man, those marriages are ruined already. Because they would be talking and they'd be building each other up on the different stupid ideas. You can't fix stupid, but it is a word. And they'd be building up these stupid ideas and allowing themselves to run with it. One couple we knew ended up getting separate. I believe they ended up getting divorced because the husband went to visit a coworker in the hospital. Now the wife had been busy filling her head with the garbage that she was catching on the afternoon soaps, and she knew that because he went to visit this female coworker while the female coworker in the hospital, he was having an affair with her. And there was no telling her different. Was he? No. Did he ever? Not to the best of my knowledge, he never did. But she was convinced he had, because she had not taken control of her own